In America, everyone counts, and the 2020 census is how that great promise is kept. Respond today online, by phone, or by mail, and help inform hundreds of billions in funding for education, health programs, and more. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov. All right, folks. Former County Judge Fanon Rucker got the nod from Hamilton County Democratic Party voters to take on Hamilton County Prosecutor Deters this November. The prosecutor's office is one of the last Republican strongholds in a county that used to be mostly red. Now, Deters has strong support in the big campaign fund on his site, but my next guest, Judge Fanon Rucker, wants to end his reign. Judge, glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Good evening. It's an absolute honor to be here with you, Mr. Martin.
One of the issues that is significant in this race deals with the issue of life imprisonment, but also death penalty cases. I mean, this DA is known for that, sending more folks than anyone else in Ohio. What is your plan to beat him?
Well, first of all, let me say that this is a historic race. People can go to fanonrucker.com for more information about my background and some of my initiatives. What you just mentioned is one of the stark differences between me and my opponent. This is someone who literally is a part-time prosecutor in a county of 800,000. We're the third largest county in the state. This is someone who has put more people on death row than any other prosecutor in our 88 counties in the state. Historically, there has never been a black male who has been a prosecutor in the entire state's history of Ohio. I've been a judge, a civil rights lawyer. I've been a trial attorney. I've been a law director and a judge, again, for 13 years here in our county. These are not issues that we're dealing with in this campaign that I read about. They're issues that I've actually been involved in on all sides, statewide and locally, setting policies. How will we beat him? We'll beat him because we have the momentum. We have a much different county now than we did in 2004, which was the first time we ran against each other. And during that time, our county was completely red. In 2020, we have an all-Democrat, all-women county commission. We have a Democratic clerk. We have a Democratic county coroner. We have Democratic judges in our county. We have a diverse county that now is actually engaging in the process. I have cross-party support. I have national support, and some incredible people have endorsed this campaign. And we are confident that we have the resources, we have the momentum, and we have the right message to change our criminal justice system and actually have it that it impacts everyone equally and doesn't exclude based on socioeconomic class or race.
We've seen the election of progressive DAs in other places, in Florida, in Baltimore, in Chicago, in Philadelphia as well. You have a White House that targets progressive DAs, saying they are bad for this country. How do you respond to that, the attacks that have taken place on progressive DAs?
Well, the first thing I'll say is no political party, no ideological principle has a monopoly on our constitutional freedoms or the protection of individual liberties. Now, some folks call those folks progressive prosecutors. I'm one who has shown by my leadership and literally by my entire career that our individual rights and freedoms must be protected, but that we must do, when we recognize problems in our system, we must be intentional about how we bridge and address those inequities and those disparities. We have them, they exist. And if we stand by passively, like our current part-time prosecutor, hoping that they're going to get better, they don't. And so when I hear the word progressive prosecutor, I think of the reality that everyone recognizes without fail disparities in our system, gaps in treatment. I recognize, or all of us recognize, that there are changes that need to be made. 95% of Americans agree that there need to be some changes to our system. And I think of the fact that those progressive prosecutors are intentional about how we actually make those changes happen. And I'm one of those folks who's intentional in my leadership in helping to make those disparities much smaller than they are.
Questions from my panel. First, I'll start with Malik.
Yeah, so I really don't have that many questions as far as just your race, but where
I just need one, Malik. Not the men. Just need one.
So, well, let me ask you again. Where in Ohio are you again?
Cincinnati.
Oh, Cincinnati. What is just from your experience being there, as far as police reform, because that's one of the things, that's a big thing that we're talking about. As far as police reform, where has Cincinnati been as far as this, being progressive around police reform? What are some of those issues that are going on in the campaign that you've seen that you're going to tackle?
Sure. Well, what's interesting and what's great about this, back in 2001, when I was a civil rights lawyer, we had riots here or disturbances after an unarmed African-American man was killed by the police. He was the 13th in 11 years. And so we, after those disturbances, formed something called the Cincinnati Can. I actually sat on this commission, and it specifically created initiatives and programs to help build trust and relationships between the law enforcement community and our larger communities. There was also a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit that was filed and settled the following year that dealt with changes to our police department. Through those changes, back in 2002, we opened and have still running a citizens independent review board to review the misconduct or the allegations of wrongful force by police. We reduced the use of certain lethal or almost lethal implements by police. We actually set up something called community-oriented policing, where police were encouraged to get out of their cars and actually engage with members of the community where they actually were policing. So we've been at the forefront, and we have body cameras for our police department. So over the past 10, 15, 20 years, we have actually been pretty engaged in these reforms that now nationally they're looking at, and many of them, as the standard for policing. Now, I won't suggest to you for a minute that there is a perfection or that there are no issues with how our citizens are policed or the relationships that need to be enhanced. But I will tell you that many of the things that they're talking about on a national scale, we have implemented. Now, of course, as someone who's been involved in these issues, I have certain ideas about how we can better enhance our relationship between law enforcement and the community. And I have a lot of law enforcement and community support in these initiatives.
Teresa.
Yeah, well, congratulations on getting in the race and potentially making history. So actually, you hit the nail on the head when you had stated that you had the relationship with
David,
the law enforcement and community.
Can you pass me my...
So my question to you is, I would like to know just give me 3 points, 3-point plan of how you will, one, bridge the gap between the community and the police as a prosecutor, and then two, what are some of the opportunities that you see? Because I know you kind of labeled the current prosecutor as a part-time prosecutor, but what do you see as being at a full-time position in order to, kind of bridge the gap, but also heighten the police reform conversation nationwide?
Well, first, let me say, when I say he's part-time, that's not like a hit. He literally submits a document at the beginning of his 4-year term that declares that he is part-time in a county of 800,000. He splits his time working for a law firm, making money individually, while these issues and 200 employees in the county prosecutor's office. He handles civil and criminal. So no, he is literally part-time by document and by attention and action. And so that's not a hit. I'm not trying to be rude to him. It's a fact. But as far as 3 issues to help build relationships, well, number one, and it has to do with system issues. We have an exploding violent crime issue here in Hamilton County, as we see in other places across the country. One of the ways that we build relationships is we find programs and initiatives to help bring our violent crime down while increasing the level of connection and collaboration between law enforcement and the community. One way we do that is we establish a violent crime reduction initiatives that includes eliminating cash bail for nonviolent offense while changing the focus of why people are sitting in jail to how much money they have, from how much money they have, to actually the risk of harm that they present to the community, as New Jersey did in a bipartisan way by their bail reform. That's the first thing we do. That helps to actually build trust, because we're not identifying people's sitting in jail based on their socioeconomic status, but it's based on the risk of harm, which everyone who lives in communities where they don't feel safe would rather live in communities where they're safe. So that's one part of it. Another part of how we build those relationships is by actual reentry court. We have a reentry program, but reentry court and can actually help reduce recidivism and support those individuals who are returning from the community by having law enforcement in the room, those resources that they need by education, health, community resources, housing, all those things, at the same time saying, look, we're going to hold you responsible for your actions, but we're also invested in your success when you return. Again, these are things that the police are looking for: safe neighborhoods and lower crime. The community is looking for safer neighborhoods and lower crime. So those joint efforts that we have of them working together to do that is more things that build trust between them, but also enhance the actions of the system for the benefit of everyone. And the third thing, and it may not be something that will help build trust, but I think it's absolutely important, but that is a conviction integrity unit. We had a big settlement last week where 8 years of homicide cases involving DNA evidence have now been opened because of the failure or the refusal of the police department to turn over evidence and the prosecutor's office not turning it over. Now, that's just one that came to light. Conviction integrity units shed light on the potential for people who are sitting in prison who are innocent of the charges for which they've been convicted. That's how you build trust. And it also enhances the ability of the police to do their job and have the outcome that they're looking for, because the citizens are more inclined to work with them when they know that their job and their intention is to help them to have safer neighborhoods.
Kelly?
Those are just 3 ways that I'm going to work on those issues.
Kelly?
Well, I wanted to congratulate you in advance for being the first Black prosecutor, state prosecutor in the state of Ohio. I believe I got the title right. My question to you is, given your expertise in literally every area except prosecutor, at least that's what I'm reading, how do you plan? Let me backtrack. When I first saw, your story and read it, it surprised me, because I didn't know the history of prosecuting in Ohio, that you would be the first. So it surprised me that you would come from the judge's bench down to prosecutor. So that being said, that level of objectivity doesn't just go away as a lawyer. Once you get there, you're there as far as objectivity goes. At least that's how it is. So how do you plan on bridging that gap, both mentally and with the community, such that you will be fair and your constituents, your community will trust you? How do you plan on taking your expertise both from the bench and defense work, if you've had it, literally every step of your career, into this one position? And how do you think that'll benefit your constituents?
Well, first, again, let me encourage people to go to fanonrucker.com, and they can see the full picture of my experience and history. I started my career as a prosecutor. And let me say, I'm a second-generation prosecutor and a second-generation judge. My dad actually was on the Supreme Court of Indiana for 18 years, just retired a couple of years ago. And so I started my career as a prosecutor. So I have had that experience actually prosecuting cases, standing up with victims, advocating for accountability, and engaging in relationships with lawyers, judges, and the community. After I left the prosecutor's office, I was a civil rights lawyer where I practiced police brutality cases, employment discrimination. I represented folks in federal court and state court, in class action lawsuits and individual cases. I also was the law director for a city, so I represented public officials, including police officers, mayors, city council members. So truly the broad scope of experiences, and then ultimately for 12 years on the bench, my focus the entire time was on justice. Justice, that concept that I did, that's the reason I went to law school. And I don't believe that the responsibility of justice is exclusive to judges. In fact, prosecutors have a greater responsibility to be that first line of this idea of providing justice to the people. Why? Because they're the ones that decide what charges, how they're presented. They're the ones, if someone is found guilty, what recommendation they make to the court. They make recommendations on bond. And so the consistency of how they provide those recommendations, the consistency of how they present cases to the grand jury, the consistency of how they treat juveniles across racial lines and socioeconomic lines. My history is just. That's the reputation that if you ask anybody in this county, lawyers, defense lawyers, prosecutors, judges, they'll tell you the same thing. Fanon Rucker is fair, focused, and intentional about our system.
All
and
right.
so that's what I carry to the prosecutor's office, is the trust that I have earned and also the intentions that I've displayed throughout my entire career. And then, so can I answer the question? Though you asked, how do you go from being a judge to a prosecutor? I'm asked that question quite often. I used to have 50 cases a day, 5 days a week, preside over several 100,000 cases as a judge. And I could guarantee every single day that people would get justice in my courtroom. I did, and I could guarantee that. But that was one courtroom out of about 40 in our county. As the prosecutor, I set the policy for all of those prosecutors working in the office and how they mete out justice in the execution of their duties, and in how they represent the community and how they actually advocate for outcomes. I can guarantee better results for a more broad base of people than I could every day as a judge. And that's how I go from being a judge to a prosecutor and have a greater impact on our system.
Fanon Rucker, I certainly appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Good luck. And always good to see another alpha man handling their business.
Always. Peace to you.
I appreciate it, Fred. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. Hold on. All right, folks at Seek.com, black-owned company founded by Mary Spio. They are a virtual reality company. Of course, you can check out their content at Seek.com. You can do so, of course, with these virtual reality headsets. So what it does is it allows for you to actually drop your cell phone right into this headset right here, close it up. Then you can actually watch the content in virtual reality. Just simply put this thing on, and that's what you can do, of course. And then you can watch it, and it seems like you're literally right there in the room. So pretty cool device here. You can actually get this device at Seek.com, Ceek.com. They also have these 360-degree 4D headphones. These headphones right here, they give out absolute great sound, great bass as well. They have Bluetooth. They also have a headset that you can use for gamers as well. So another great headset. So you can get this as a gift for someone or for yourself. All you got to do is go to Seek.com, Ceek.com. Use our promo code RMVIP2020, RMVIP2020, in order to get you a discount on these devices. And if you do so, you will be, of course, you will be helping Roland Martin Unfiltered as well. And so we certainly appreciate Seek being a partner here on Roland Martin Unfiltered.